Hi everybody, this is Kim McQueen. Today I just thought I'd do a little video. This is going to be a bit shorter about printing on fabric. And so I brought some examples that I thought I could go through these and tell you a few little tips and things you might want to consider when you're designing. So let me just first start with, it's good to know how you're going to print your pattern before you even design your pattern or as you're designing your pattern, because it might kind of change some of the decisions you make. So let me talk about the different types of printing options there are, and you can kind of get your wheels turning as you're thinking about the things you're working on. I want to first start talking about just transfer printing. Everybody's pretty familiar with transfer printing. It comes in a lot of different options. You've got glitter, it's a little rubbery, it can be thicker or thinner. One of the things we know in transfer printing often is that, it can crack. And so you really do want to make sure that you test your sample when you get it back in your method of washing. And that's really important because in China things aren't washed the same as we do in the West. So the detergents might be different. The washing machine itself, I can tell you, is definitely different. And they don't always use a dryer. And a lot of things are hung outside and they're dried that way. So we really want to kind of test it in our exact same method where your product is going to be sold. So the country it would be sold in. So make sure you do that and just check. The other thing is when you do transfer printing, we found that we quickly moved to the ones that have a lot of stretch in them. And that's really important because we were on stretchy clothing. And so that can kind of just protect your pattern a bit longer and make it wear better. So look into that. The other thing is look into the options you have, because this is glitter, so there's a lot of different colors and there's a lot of different textures in the transfer printing. You can also put a pattern, I know I've got one in here we go. You can put a pattern inside the transfer. Now this one's kind of interesting. So there's some stretch in it, not a ton, but there is stretch in it. But we hadn't thought about this when we made it, and I said I could definitely do case studies, right? And it was really cute, but because we were in exercise and the ladies were wearing these, and you might look at some of these patterns and think, wow, they're really kind of youthful. The women who belong to Curves in the countries I worked in are a lot younger, and so we had a lot of kind of fun sort of youthful designs. But this is kind of hot because it's right over your chest and you're working out. So think about where your pattern's going to be. Even the ones that are on the back are a bit hot too, so just think a little bit about that. You might want to move towards an option of water print, which is another style of printing, and I really love water print. You don't feel anything. It looks best when it's on lighter fabrics, so it's not necessarily an option for black fabric. But for example, you could have a gray fabric and then you put a darker gray on top and you get kind of a tone on tone effect. With this one, we had an all over pattern done, on the back. And so the water print is great because you can do whatever with it and it's just fine. But again, test this and wash this really well in your washing machine. That's a really important thing to do. The other options in printing that I wanted to talk about are screen printing. So screen printing is usually done when you have a really large area that you want to cover, or you're going to do a roll of fabric. And some fabrics, I'll mention this in a minute, some fabrics, it's going to dictate that you have to use screen printing, that no other printing is going to work very well on it. So these were scarves we made, and these were patterns that we designed in-house ourselves. And I was thinking I should probably do a show on how to protect your IP. We were fortunate to have our own factory and have everything in-house so that we could protect our own designs and patterns. But the thing you basically own is your pattern. So if you're working with a designer or you have an in-house design team, definitely I encourage you to make your own patterns. You can buy patterns and you can buy exclusive rights on patterns as well. But I think particularly if you're going into more high-end fashion, you definitely want to have an in-house designer and have your own your own patterns. But these were screen printed, and this one obviously had lots of colors, so that's going to run a little bit more. This one is the same in that regard, but these were done on a polyester. They're really soft. They really were quite beautiful, and a lot of variety. Can be worn as throngs, or you can wear them as scarves, or you can wear them as head wraps. And this one was done on a cotton blend, so this has got a totally different feel, and I'm not sure if I can kind of get, you know, you can kind of see through it a little bit. I don't know if you can tell there, but it's a kind of a wider weave. It's a really soft fabric, but it's just two color. And so this one was also really pretty. And these were, again, patterns that were our patterns that we had in-house. The other thing I wanted to mention a little bit about is that digital printing is a really good option if you have a smaller area you want to cover. Even though it's expensive because it's charged per meter, you might want to test out a couple of designs in your line and just see if those designs are going to get picked up, and that's what people gravitate to. So it's a great way to do a test without having a huge investment in fabric. Because once you go into printing rolls of fabric, you're screen printing, and it's one pattern on one roll. I tried many times. Can we just do, like, you know, 3 patterns on that roll? And you just can't. It's one pattern on a roll, and you have to make that investment. And I know several of you in the swimwear category contacted me, and the thing about swimwear that I think is interesting, and I wanted to mention this, is that digital printing is not a really good option if you're printing on nylon, for example. Nylon's a really high-end fabric, beautiful fabric, expensive, so you can charge more. It wears well. But when we did digital printing for some sports bras and workout gloves on nylon, what we found was that as it got hotter, you know, and it was printing, the pattern did not stick to the fabric. It started to fade, and it also just didn't wash well. It just did not adhere. And so we had to move to another fabric choice. So we went to a polyester blend as opposed to a nylon, which is quite high end. So if you are printing on nylon, you're probably going to be doing screen printing. So one of the things you might want to consider is doing a whole roll of a couple of patterns that are your patterns, but then doing a couple of solids, you know, just some solid rolls, because then you can buy what's available and you don't necessarily have to buy a whole roll. And this is one way you could kind of mix up your variety. Another thing to think about too is the different materials you might be printing on. So here we printed on plastic on the inside. So this was a nice way to make a makeup bag and not print on the fabric, but we had a plastic that we printed on. The printing is actually on the inside, so it's not going to scratch or wear off. It's basically the reverse. So there's a lot of different things to consider when you're looking at printing, your water print, your transfer print, your screen print, and digital. If you want to do samplings, smaller run, smaller area. Even if you're doing pillows, like these were pillow covers and they were just digitally printed. So if you have some unique one-off designs or something you just want to have in a few limited edition, you know, digital printing might be a good option. Knowing how you're going to print can sometimes affect your design in the beginning. So like your fabric choice, your tone on tone. So try and think about all these things as you're designing. What kind of printing will I plan to do, so that that can be worked in and you can start sampling along the way, because you might change your design slightly when you test out a few styles of printing. So let me leave you with that, and I hope everyone's having a super creative day and you're making some amazing things out there. And I think some future videos I'm thinking about doing are on IP, and I've got a friend who's going to be visiting me from Shanghai. He does totally different work than fashion stuff like I did, and he's going to have some interesting tidbits, so I might just do a little interview with him. But anyway, hope everybody's having a great day, and I'll see you later. Bye.